when he doesn't blink. Come on, Aiden called out from the door. He was getting antsy, and he'd begun to twirl his key around his finger. Theory was finishing up in the bathroom, washing his face and brushing his teeth. His eyes held a dull luster and his expression seemed muted. He walked out, raking his hands through damp curls, raising his head to smile playfully across the room. What's the rush? Theory quickly walked across the room, poking at Aiden's sides. His eyes lit up and a large smile found itself on his face. Theory was genuinely smiling. Aiden pulled him close and ruffled his hair a bit. Soon we have dinner. Soon we can get back here. Both of them nodded and laughed. Tonight was going to be special. They never really had a chance to enjoy each other in public. This was all kind of new to Aiden, and he hadn't exactly had the warmest of welcomes into his adult life as it was. Their favorite place out in town was a little restaurant in Lower Elmwood called La Primavera. This was greatly in part because when they normally went, during the late afternoon, after sunset, the restaurant came alive. Tonight would be no exception. As they walked up, Theory stepped ahead with his eyes full of lights and nose flooded with beautiful aromas of seafood paellas and steak ranchero. Aiden walked past, being greeted by a waitress who seated them in their usual spot. She then tilted her head to the side, waiting for something as she tapped the menus in her arms. Her eyes were focused on Aiden. Her entire expression seemed to be braced and anxious for something that should have already begun. Aiden chuckled nervously, taking a deep sigh as he saw Theory giving him the same look. Come on now, Theory laughed. I'm too hungry for you to be shy. Aiden rolled his eyes and playfully slammed his hands down, gently, before looking at the waitress again. He cleared his throat. Buenas noches, señorita. She laughed and almost dropped the menus. All of that nervousness for that little bit of Spanish. Aiden collapsed onto himself, churning laughter in his gut. Just because it's a little bit of Spanish for you doesn't mean it's not a lot for me. His voice trailed off, higher pitched as he whined in the humor of the situation. I just need food, Theory playfully begged. Aiden saw, smiling ear to ear. It was a rare sight. The waitress giggled and put the menus down in front of them. Are y'all gonna order something besides cheeseburgers and wings? The waitress joked before leaving them to find their selections for the night. Theory flipped the pages, moving his eyes closer to the page to study words he should have fumbled over if he said them out loud. He finally placed the menu down in front of Aiden, pointing to a section of food in the restaurant specials. You ever tried this one? Theory inquired through a soft smile. Aiden smiled back, gazing into his boyfriend's eyes, mesmerized by the rare sight of joy painted across his face. He stuttered as they took a moment to play around with the names of the dishes. Theory looked up at Aiden, his smile now even wider and mirrored by the depth of his eye. Damn, I love you. Theory began before his eyes fell over a large silhouette behind Aiden. His smile faded. The light of his eyes left and his mouth went agape. Dozens of smoldering eyes met his gaze and locked him in place. Wailing shrieks flooded his ears, forming maddened hands to mold his mind. He heard his name croaked through raspy throats and watched as a horse skull snaked around the bodies, eventually rising to tower over them with a multitude of hands and arms holding and pulling at them. Oh, don't worry. The demon's voice scraped across his bony throat. You have fun. Be happy. Theory's eyes were heavy with sadness. His heart beat in anger and his palms began to sweat. The demon spoke again. I'll watch over them while you have a night out on the town. Theory sat there, frozen and trembling. His mouth crept open and eyes as wide as they'd ever been without emitting lavender sparks. He could feel his breath filling his chest, anxiously pushing out of his nostrils and mouth as if he'd been freshly chased. His heart was almost beating out of his chest, and the ghosts each bore their gazes into him, modestly enjoying his anguish. The ghosts, the children, began to grab at his arms, weeping tears of fire and ash. He had a mind to pull his arms away, to stand up and throw the chair back. He remembered, though, no one else could see what he did. These ghosts were his alone. Aiden saw his eyes, though, noticed the way he froze in place, and knew that something was wrong. He reached across the table to hold Theory's hand, catching it trembling and sweating. And that's when Aiden saw it. Theory's eyes were glossed over. He looked like he was about to cry.